Jay Hansen, present and of sound mind and all of his glory, call the virtual construction industry energy board meeting in session, October 20th, 2020, and I have the time at 9:30. Debbie, would you take the roll, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Chair Jay Hansen.
Present.
Vice Chair Thomas Kyle. Thank you, Mr. Kyle, Vice Chair. Gary Heikkinen.
Here.
Thank you. Hale Zuschlag.
Present.
Thank you. Heather Miller.
Here.
Blake Schley.
I'm here.
Thank you. Walter Cottle.
Here.
John Camiller.
Here.
Eli Vollum.
Here.
Matthew Roselle. I don't see him, so I will be excusing him. Travis Argue.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Debbie. Let's see. So we all have available to us the minutes from the last meeting. Do we have any questions about those or comments about those minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to move that we accept the minutes from our last meeting. All those in favor say aye. 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 All right, Debbie, I think we have approval of the past minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we're going to have our next meeting on February 9th of 2021, and 2021 cannot come any sooner. Andy, do you have some public comments and some testimony for us, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Andy Boulton, Policy Analyst Division. We haven't received any requests for general public comment. There are a few specific requests related to a different agenda item, and we're going to address those when we get to that agenda item.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, Andy. Mark, do you have a report from Policy and Technical Services?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Hansen and the board. For the record, Mark Heizer with the division, giving a few updates from the division. First thing we'd like to mention is just a little rollout of the mechanical minor labels program. It's going to be a pilot project starting November 1st in a few select counties. The division will be working on how to do sort of quick permitting of small work under the mechanical program like we've had with plumbing and electrical programs. I believe the select counties include Marion, City of Salem, I think one Coat, and Coos County, I believe. So we're going to see how that works to see if we can roll that out statewide. Second piece is the notice of temporary rule for the solar readiness requirements for new residential buildings. That is available now. The division has posted to the website some clarifications. There were some questions about how it integrates with the Oregon Electrical Specialty Code. You can find a link on the residential program page to get to that. It just helps clarify what's needed for moving and the type of conduit that would be put in or raceway. It will be, of course, part of the 2021 ORSC. Next piece from the division is introduction. We have a new senior policy analyst for the Policy and Technical Services Program. Julia Heizer is our new person to fill in that role. Would like to welcome her aboard. One other thing we'd like to do. Excuse me? Oh, sorry, background noise. I'm sorry. I thought someone was asking a question. Continuing on, we'll be introducing the division's new interim administrator. Alana Cox will be coming up here in a minute, but would like to discuss that, yes, at the actions of the Residential and Manufactured Structures Board on October 7th, the Chapter 11 energy provisions and recommendations of the Residential Committee have been put forward and going to move with the rest of the residential code for final rulemaking soon. And with that, I would like to introduce Alana Cox, our new administrator. She may have some additional pieces on that.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm not on camera. I'm in the room here with Mr. Heizer, which is why he's wearing a mask, sorry. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and all the work you all do to be pulling double duty and 2 boards. It's a lot of volunteer service, and we really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you all in this new capacity and engaging with the board, and I'm happy to answer questions as we kind of work our way through the agenda, particularly when we get to the REACH code.
Okay.
Thank you, Alana.
And Mr. Chair, Mark Heizer with the board. That wraps up really some of the updates. The next piece, with your permission, move on to an update about ASHRAE Standard 90.1. Wanted to give some updates on what's happened with that. We've been in contact with the U.S. Department of Energy. We want to have ComCheck available for 90.1 2019. So that both for designers and the building officials can have a good worksheet to work from. They're beginning beta testing of the software, I believe, this month, and in November there will be posted the final version. Determination work for their report of how much the code moved forward is still forthcoming. Just given COVID and all, it's dragging on a little longer. We also had a conversation with the Architecture 2030 group. We do have confirmation that they will be updating their zero code calculator to be able to have that available for 90.1 2019. The division is looking at what will be done, what's needed to integrate bits of 90.1 2019 into our structural code, including some of the integration of some of the low-rise residential provisions. We are looking forward to putting out sort of an announcement for public proposals and hoping to bring information back to the February meeting. One thing we're really hoping to do, since this is really the most advanced code available for adoption, is to keep limited number of changes to the code such that we don't have to have USDOE create a new, different version of ComCheck, which could delay integration of the code. I believe that's the main point we wanted to bring about 2019, is that it looks like it's ready to be able to move forward, and was open to accepting any questions from the group.
This is Blake. Through the chair, just a question. So you mentioned that basically will be opening up for public proposals against using 90.1 2019 as a base code, but then entertaining any minor revisions to that. Is that right?
That is correct. Using 90.1 2019 as the baseline. Some of the publications from USDOE will show the revisions between the 2019 and 2016 versions, so we'll sort of have a pre-done matrix. for that portion. Again, yeah,
Do you have any feel for when the public proposal period might open?
And this is Alana, through the chair, just to clarify. Our intention was not to do a 45-day solicitation of proposals, but to hold a public meeting and also have an opportunity at the board level to make suggestions on changes. Because we're going to try to stay relatively close to the model code here so that we can avail ourselves of ComCheck and get early adoption. I think in general, we were looking at not too many changes, early adoption as the overall approach on the commercial code. So not a 45-day period like we've done on other codes like we're intending to do on the REACH code, but certainly an opportunity for feedback from the public starting in the winter here once we kind of have our work done in the early part of next year. And then we would also bring it back to this board for approval and public comment.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments in that regard? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to some new business. The new business is a focus on the 2021 Oregon REACH code process, and Andy has an introduction to that.
Andy, we can't hear you.
Apologies. Sorry about that. Andy Boulton, policy analyst for the division, starting over. We are starting the process of developing the 2021 residential REACH code with the goal of it being effective April 1st, 2021. Division will solicit proposals and input as to what should be included in the REACH code, starting in November, and that proposal period will go for 45 days, and proposals should be based around anticipated 2021 residential specialty code, that was approved by the Residential and Manufactured Structures Board at its October 7th meeting. There will be at least one public meeting to address public comments in early 2021. The division will present the proposed 2021 residential REACH code to both the Residential Manufactured Structures Board and this board for consideration. On this item is where we have received some requests for public comment by Duell of Northwest Natural and Mike Goodrich of Oregon Homebuilders Association. We also have Heizer and Alana Cox on hand to field questions from the board if necessary. Thank you.
Are there any specific questions that anyone on the board might have in regards to this process?
Gary Hickman, through the chair. Just a real quick one, Andy. In looking at your the letter that was in the packet, second sentence there in the background said, all municipalities must accept the REACH code. I'm trying to understand exactly what that means. I think I might, but I guess I'd like to hear an explanation of that.
Hi, through the chair, this is Alana. Thank you for the question. Oh, sorry, Andy. I can let you take a run at it too if you want. But basically what it means
I was going to bounce it to you anyway.
Because this is, a builder's choice option above code path, it just means that for those builders that choose to build it, local municipality, your local building department has to accept things built to the REACH code. So as it goes through the process, it's got to be technically and economically feasible. It'll come through this board, and then that's an indication that this above code path on the residential side has to be accepted by local building departments for those who choose to use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and that's what I thought it meant. I just wanted clarification. Thanks, Alana. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and also just to highlight that it's an opportunity to explore new technology as well as for things that are more energy efficient.
Alana, Chair Hansen, through myself, it does not mean that a local jurisdiction must enforce the REACH code. Is that correct also?
That is absolutely correct. Thank you. Through the chair, Alana Cox with the division. Yes, it is optional as it stands today. It is not mandatory in any jurisdiction. There would have to be some process and some further legislative action or other actions to make it mandatory. So as it stands today, it's an option for builders.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? We have some public testimony. I think we have it all in front of us from Northwest Natural. I do not have that public testimony. I did not receive from Oregon Homebuilders Association. Debbie, did that get distributed other than the hyperlink that I'm seeing on my help sheet?
Mr. Chair, it's posted to the division website, and it's also hyperlinked on the help sheet.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. I haven't had a chance to take a peek at that. Do we have any, if we have no other questions or comments at this time regarding the ORRC process, we can move on to announcements. Any other, Mr. Chair?
Yeah. This is Andy Boulton with the division. Both Kevin Duell and Mike Goodrich requested oral testimony on this item as well.
Okay, well, now's the time. Kevin, you're first on my list. Are you up and ready to go?
I certainly am, thank you. And to the board chair and board members and division staff, just wanted to submit some comments in support of Oregon's REACH code. Some of you may recognize this preamble from other meetings, but here we go. Northwest Natural provides natural gas service to approximately 2.5 million people in more than 140 communities in Oregon and Southwest Washington through one of the most modern pipeline systems in the nation. We are a 162-year-old company delivering energy safely, reliably, and affordably every day, while reimagining our future to integrate renewable natural gas into our system. Northwest Natural is a longtime supporter and contributor to Energy Trust of Oregon and the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, both of which advance energy efficiency in our region and beyond. Additionally, we have taken a lead role in a building industry-wide collaboration to bring high-efficiency gas-fired heat pump technology to market. Energy efficiency is a critical element of our strategy to drive down emissions, decarbonize our pipeline, and help the region meet its climate goals. Northwest Natural supports development of an economically and technically feasible REACH code that can be used by designers and builders on a voluntary basis to advance their design and construction practice and market presence. We propose the REACH code set an efficiency target that will keep Oregon on a trajectory to address long-term energy efficiency goals, be useful as a basis for incentive programs like Energy Trust of Oregon, and also be economically and technically feasible. We also propose the REACH code should look much like the baseline code, but have additional options and improved energy use targets that provide a look forward to the next baseline code. This consistency supports Oregon's history of high code compliance. The REACH code must be fair-handed, continuing to provide energy flexibility and resiliency, as well as energy choice for all Oregonians. And the REACH code should remain voluntary. The REACH code is consistent across the state, provides clarity for the marketplace, and allows incentive programs like Energy Trust of Oregon to be applied equitably and uniformly across the state. We close with this advice from the Principles for Code Adoption, published by the Building Code Division. It's important to ensure construction practices are the safest and most efficient for all buildings in Oregon, and that they're technically feasible and cost-effective. And all Oregonians should have the benefit of a safe, affordable, and efficient home. This advantage of consistent, predictable codes creates extremely high compliance rates and is part of what makes the Oregon model unique. Thank you very much.
Well said, Kevin. Thank you very much. Mike Goodrich, are you loaded and ready to go?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the Chair, that Oregon Homebuilders has submitted written testimony that I won't read to you again. In a nutshell, the Oregon Homebuilders Association has a couple of questions, I guess, related to the process of adopting this REACH code. One of the first ones of those, of course, is timing. In previous updates at your last meeting, the date was thrown out of 2023 requirement to begin this process in 2023 per the governor's order. So we were hoping to get a little understanding of whether or not the division felt that statute was driving it in 2021, or the reason to pursue this for a 2021 adoption was related to the governor's order and her direction to reduce greenhouse gases, global warming, and climate change in general. Obviously, OHBA's concerns with that are continuing to work through the crisis created by the pandemic and COVID, the recent wildfires in Oregon. Not as big of an issue if this remains a voluntary code. However, previous testimony from several cities at your last meeting indicated a desire to adopt this locally as soon as it was passed. And if there was any possibility of getting some clarity from the division on whether or not this will truly remain a voluntary code or it's likely to be available for local adoption, we think that's important to understand as we proceed through this process. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, this is Alana. I'm happy to address those questions from Mr. Goodrich and the home builders. It is the case that the EO lays out the next 3 code cycles as 2023, 2026, and 2029. But the statute says we shall adopt a REACH code, and I think as we're looking to have an April 2021 update to the residential code, the REACH code won't make any sense, won't be more efficient than our new code. So we wanted to take this opportunity to get the process started. April is a goal. You know, if through the solicitation of proposals and public comment we feel that it's not ready, then we'll, you know, have that conversation with you all again. But aside from the executive order, we know that there's some demand to get the REACH code updated on a code cycle in general, and that's what we're trying to do. We want to work with this board and the residential board to figure out the best way to do that, but we thought by just starting with a solicitation of ideas that would give us a sense of how close we are to having something that would be technically and economically feasible to bring back to you all. So that's why we're talking about it now. We've got a fresh recommendation from the residential board. We have a sense of what the 2021 code looks like. So we want to take this time to see what a REACH code could look like as well. And in terms of it, you know, being optional, it's optional today. It's an above code path for builders. You know, there are 2 ways it could become not optional. The first would be a change to the law, right? And so that's up to the legislature across the river to determine if that's a path they want to explore. And I expect that, you know, you all as stakeholders would be engaged in that conversation if that's something that people decide to pursue. The other way that it could be made mandatory is that local government could go through a process to request a local amendment to the code to make the REACH code mandatory within their jurisdiction. That has not happened before, and we have rules that lay out kind of what you have to do that. You gotta, you know, pass an ordinance, you have to do local engagement with your stakeholders, you have to hold public meetings, and then you have to make an application to us. I think it's too soon to prejudge what that process would look like, but we know that one of the reasons we have really high compliance on our code enforcement is because it's consistent across the state. So I think, local government would have to make a really good case as to why we should undermine that statewide consistency with mandatory reach code application. So as it is today, it is an optional path. I don't know what the future holds. I know that there's some interest, it's been expressed publicly, but those are kind of the two paths that would be available to go down that road, would be either a legislative change or a local amendment process, and that would have to include stakeholder engagement at the local level and some local political action as well. Does that answer your questions, Mike?
Yes, thank you very much.
Great. Does that create any questions for anyone else?
This is Eli. I have some comments, I guess, through the chair that probably will result in a question. One thing we do know is certain in the future is that we have the zero energy ready equivalency requirement from the 17-20 executive order. And though the Residential Manufactured Structures Board, following the committee's recommendation, is making a good push on residential code now, there's some improvements. There's still a ways to go to get to that zero energy ready performance. So the reach code seems like the perfect opportunity to create that roadmap so that there's something out there for a couple years that builders can look at and see what's coming in 2023. One simple thing is the zero energy ready requirements are available as a prescriptive approach. So we could look at that, compare that to where we are in our existing residential code, and that might help inform what the reach code might look like. And there's some pretty big gaps between the recommendation currently on the table from the Residential Manufactured Structures Board and the Zero Energy Ready Home. That also exists with the International Residential Code, in my opinion. A couple things are performance testing that's required for building envelopes and duct systems if they're not fully enclosed in the envelope. That's something we definitely need to address within both the IRC and the Zero Energy Ready Home. So there's a couple other things. If you just look at the prescriptive path, we do have a ways to go. So anyways, I hope that we take this opportunity to use the REACH code to create a roadmap for the industry to see what's coming, understand it, learn it, and it doesn't become a surprise in 2023. I also hope that we, as the board, get a good sense of the performance where we're at compared to the 2006 code. That's identified in the 2004 executive order. That's also going to help us know how far off we are from the Zero Energy Ready Home, because we really don't have, we don't have any data about modeling assumptions or performance against either of those baselines, the 2006 or the Zero Energy Ready Home. It's not to say they're not there, just we haven't been presented with data. So as we're looking at recommendations for REACH code, I would really hope that we see some assumptions and some energy modeling information that can demonstrate the performance where we're getting at. So I guess that's the question I'll put out there in the February meeting. Is that something that we're going to be able to be presented with whatever recommendation comes with the REACH code?
Sure, Eli, through the chair, this is Alana again. It's going to be challenging for us as it was through the residential process, where we have a moving target to also be, have ongoing modeling conversations while we're trying to figure out what we're doing at the same time. It's a challenge, and my hope is we're going to do a solicitation for proposals. I'm hoping that some of those proposals will come with some of that information from the proposers. And then I know that the Oregon Department of Energy has been working really closely with our agency to figure out the best way to do modeling, and Blake is on the call here today. It's been a conversation over the last year or so, and we're trying to hone it in and get those details worked out, and we're trying to also put everything we have out on our website, which we've done with our REM rate files and other things, and we'll continue to do. So that information is available where people can see, how we're thinking about these things and what our modeling approach is. But I don't want to commit that we're going to have completed modeling on a variety of REACH code proposals that I haven't seen yet, and I don't know what they're going to say. But my hope is that some of the organizations that that do really good modeling work will do that as part of their proposal and include some of that information for consideration when they make those proposals here over the next couple months.
Okay, after a little bit of technical difficulty, I'm sorry. I kind of lost everybody there, but I heard enough of Alana's and Mike's comments to have a better understanding and of the questions and of the process that we will be experiencing. And again, I think we all, when it comes down to it, it's optional. So it's optional as we proceed through this, unless the legislature dictates otherwise. Are there any other questions to the process? Do we have any other public testimony?
Not a question, but through the chair, just to kind of revisit the mention and discussion of the modeling work that our agency and in conjunction with BCD and a broader stakeholder group and some of the monthly meetings that we've been holding for this kind of broader discussion, we do plan to now that we have the bulk of the 2021 ORFD in place to do that modeling to kind of align what some of the inputs and assumptions are, so that we are able to better tell and to bring to the boards and any other stakeholders what the progress is for both executive orders for 1720 and getting to the ZRH equivalency, and then for 2004 and getting to the 2030 goal percentage of the glide path along the way. But that will be one effort that we're going to be discussing over the next couple months with our agency, with BCD and some other stakeholders, what those modeling assumptions are, to be able to tell us kind of where we are. And hopefully, I think Alana's right, that some of the stakeholders can take that, and anybody who wants to make a proposal can take those models and potentially input what their proposals are for the REACH code, see what improvement that gets over the over the base code. Because as long as we're all talking from the same models and talking from the same assumptions, I think that's really what's important here. So, yeah.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? Hearing none, and that we have no announcements to bring before the board. I see that there being no further business, this virtual board meeting by edict of me of the Construction Industry Energy Board is now adjourned at 10:03. Thank you all very much for joining and contributing.